audience hear my... Can you hear it too?
ASMR, yes.
So you can hear it while I... Are you serious? That's disgusting.
Are we good? All right. Welcome, everybody, to Season 2, Episode 17 of the MotivateMe313 podcast. Sorry we started a little bit later than we were expecting, but it's okay. We are live. We're ready to go. We're going to have an amazing show for you guys today. Looking forward to it. It should be really fun. As you can see, so first of all, Ramsey, are we good over there on YouTube, by the way? Make sure we're good to go. All right, so as you can see, first of all, my sister Sada was not here today. The stomach bug got her, inshallah. Allah Shafi Sada. Hopefully she feels better. But what do we have, Sada? I mean, we have Abid here today. Big sis Abid Thabit, one of the co-hosts of the Motivate Me 313 podcast. By the way, I'd like to mention that the only, podcast in America that has 2 Yemeni women co-hosts.
All right.
By the way, so you want to give us a round of applause on that, Ramsey. Shout out to Ramsey, by the way. My nephew's in the back over there handling his business over there, getting the rounds of applause and all the ads ready to go. So shout out to Rambo. But with that said, I don't want you to hit nothing that you don't want to mess up. But yeah, like I said, we got Abid here. You got myself, Omar T. And then the guest today, of course, is a familiar face for those that already know, Abraham Aiyash. He's been on the show a few times. Shout out to Abraham Aiyash. He is currently the Michigan State majority
Floor leader. Yeah.
Floor leader, okay?
Yeah.
So shout out to Ibrahim Aiyash, moving on up, mashallah, doing his thing. Yeah, man, seriously, I'm looking forward to hearing a lot that he has to say. He actually has a meeting, so we got to make sure that we drill him with any questions that we may have.
I'm ready. It's
going to be fun. But I do want to say, make sure you subscribe to our pages. YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok is all under Oz Media now. You can listen to this show later on Apple and Spotify podcast under Oz Media. And if you wanted to call in instead of commenting, feel free to call in. The number is 313-306-1750. Feel free to call in and chime in. We want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Ramsey. We got the Balkan House, Hanley International Academy, the Qahwa House, and BC Adhesives. So we're going to go ahead and give a shout out to BC Adhesives, located in Wisconsin.
All
and
right.
there's an irony of that because the Lions had that big win yesterday against Green Bay.
Man.
And
they did win.
Yeah, they did. And we were actually talking with the guys from BC Adhesives, talking a little bit of smack with them. So shout out to BC Adhesives. So go ahead, Ramsey. You want to run that ad right quick? What's going on, Ramsey? Is it frozen? All right, we're going to leave it alone. I'll give them a shout out right quick. You can go to BC Adhesives for all your industrial adhesives needs. They do food packaging, book binding, product assembly, and many other industrial services. So if you're in need of adhesives for your business or having trouble with your current adhesives applications, you can contact them by phone, 1-888-679-9825, or go on their website, www.bcadhesives.com. Like I said, shout out to Matt, Terry Cassidy, Ed, and Jake. Everybody over there at BC Adhesives, really do appreciate them.
You got to do like a more like radio sponsor. Man.
Okay.
BC Adhesives. I don't know. I don't know what they
the
do.
recording does sound a little like
Yeah, so we actually have a I have pre-recorded, but I don't know what's going on over there. But we're gonna leave that alone.
For all your industrial adhesive needs, BC Adhesives out of Wisconsin.
Hey, you know what?
Not like that.
I might have to. Yeah, I might have to pay you. I might have to pay you, A, to go ahead and run those ads for us because that does sound a lot better than I do. That's for sure. Shout out to Abe Aiyash. Seriously, man, I just want to say this while we're here, okay? And I wanted to make sure that I did say this while we're here, and that is Ibrahim. Talk about a role model. All right, I'm looking at the camera because I want you guys to make sure you guys see this part right here because I want to say this seriously, man. Because everybody's moving in a fast-paced world. MashaAllah, we read about stuff, you see stuff, and then you be like, man, obviously sending a text does help, but sometimes life gets so busy for everybody, and you forget to kind of send that text or something. But I'm so proud of this guy right here. You can watch a few past episodes. I'm not gonna sit here and discuss about how we grew up together and stuff like that. But we grew up right next to each other and stuff. But nowadays, these young generations, they look up to these rappers. They look up to these athletes that they never meet. They never get to know. They would never probably meet these people in person unless they go to a concert or a basketball game or a football game. But you got a guy who's young and actually making change in our world. and sitting here and making a difference and grew up the same way you did. I don't care who you are, what your background is.
The same 24 hours.
Yeah, it has the same 24 hours, mashallah, and you know, very similar paths than the people that are watching or eventually will be watching. And you know, he's sitting here today, and I'm so proud of you, man, and I'm very proud of everything that you've been doing. And you know, it's so funny because you know, I remember, you know, when you were first starting your journey into the elected official world, and I threw out a line. I was like, you know, it's only a matter of time, you know. MashaAllah, it's only a matter of time, and this is just the beginning. I was like, you guys, you know, it's just the beginning, and I'm happy to see all that you've accomplished, man. So I'm proud of you, and keep up the great work, obviously, as well.
You are too kind. You know, I tell people the story all the time. When I snapped the ball over your head, and you got sacked as a quarterback. It's one of my worst moments in high school, but. You know, everything is through the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You know, I'm incredibly blessed to have had these opportunities. You mentioned we grew up together, and it's not a matter of the circumstance, but when you are given a blessing and an opportunity, you know, all credence goes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for him. You know, this was completely, for many folks, it's an expected path, right? They say, oh, we always knew you were going to be a politician. But truly, I had no idea that I would run for office at this point in my life, and then stay. You know, I was on my way to New York. I just accepted a job. So, you know, I always say, you never know when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the opportunity. You just have to be ready when that opportunity comes. And, you know, it was a matter of timing and luck and the grace of Allah. So.
Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So how does it feel to be selected by your colleagues to be the majority floor leader?
Yeah.
And can you tell us a little bit, for many people may not know what that role actually entails?
Yeah. So, you know, I serve in the Michigan House. So there's 110 representatives, obviously, across the state. Each of us represents about 90,000 people. So I represent my new district, all of Hamtramck, the east side all the way to Outer Drive, Eastern Market, downtown Detroit. So if you know where the Shinola Hotel is, that's sort of the southern border of my district, and the northern border is, I would say, 6 Mile, McNichols, that area. And then it goes from Hamtramck all the way to a couple blocks out of Outer Drive. So mostly a Detroit district. About 75% of the residents come from the city of Detroit, the rest out of Hamtramck. And in the U.S. Congress, in the Michigan House, you have a Speaker of the House, which is sort of the person that presides over the entire chamber, and then you have sometimes it's referred to as a majority leader, like in U.S. Congress it's referred to as a majority leader. In Michigan we would call it the majority floor leader. So I'm basically the number 2, if I could describe it to folks. So if there's a president of the Michigan House of Representatives, I'm the vice president. And the way it works is the party that has more votes, they are the ones that select who the majority floor leader will be. So I had a race. I ran against one of my colleagues. You know, sometimes it gets a little awkward when you're running against the person.
That's very awkward.
And then they have to vote for you, right? So it's like after the election, we all get into a room, and then people give nominating speeches. Say, I nominate so and so, and then people get to ask you questions, right? And then after that, people vote, and then you know, like within 10 minutes, did they vote for you or did they not vote for you? So we've been running for about a year and a half, right? So we started in 2021, sort of an internal election. So the Thursday after the real election, which was in November, we got into a room. People asked us the questions. They made the nomination speeches, and you know, it's a lot of work. You have to travel across the state. You got to get to know your colleagues. So I was anywhere from Marquette, Traverse City, Benton Harbor, Monroe, Michigan. I mean, I was really going everywhere. So you travel the state to try to help your colleagues win, and then you get to know them and really build that relationship and demonstrate the leadership that you can bring. So as majority floor leader, now my role is to help set the calendar of what we're voting on and what we get to do and don't do in the Michigan House, and you know, talk about strategy, what bills we move forward, negotiate with the Republicans. And for those that don't know, Michigan has had Republican, and people always blame the Democrats, but I want to give you some context. So the Michigan House has been under Republican rule for 18 of the last 22 years.
Oh.
Yeah, long time. And they've held the Michigan Senate since Ronald Reagan, so the 1980s,
wow.
like consecutively. I'm not talking about we took power, they took it back. So they've had a lot of power in the state of Michigan. And then from 2011 to 2018, the Republicans had the Supreme Court, the Secretary of State, the Attorney General, the Governor, the House, and the Senate. So they completely controlled the state government. In 2018, obviously, the Gretchen Whitmer won, and then we had Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson and Attorney General Dana Nessel, but the House and Senate were still under Republican rule. So this year, we flipped the House for the first time, and we took what's called a trifecta, which basically means the governor, the House, and Senate are all under one party.
For the first time.
First time in 40 years,
Wow.
only the fourth time in 130 years. So just to let you know how much control the Democrats have had, it's not been long, right? So this is the first time in almost a century and a half that the Democrats have the House, Senate, and the governor's mansion. But history shows that they've only held it 2 years. So they don't hold it more than 2 years in a row.
You know, what's crazy is that, like, I'm probably not as educated as I should be with politics, is when you think the governor is a Democrat, like,
Yeah.
you think the whole,
State, right. No, it's crazy, right? I mean, like, we live in Detroit, so it's a strong Democratic area. But the reality is Republicans have had a lot of control in state government. So when you think about the issues that affect your state, infrastructure, cities getting some funding from the state, your schools, the money that comes to schools and how we pay our people, that all comes from state government. So, I'm excited that for the first time in my, and really, literally our lives, we have a chance to finally set an agenda that's going to finally put communities like Hamtramck and Detroit at the forefront. The unfortunate reality is I remember when I used to go to the Republicans, just to give you a quick example, I went to the Republicans and said, hey, we got lead in the pipes in Hamtramck. I need $50 million to change this. And we have $6 billion in surplus right now, which means excess money than what we projected to need.
Wow.
They didn't bat an eye to say, can we give you some money? They just wouldn't, they didn't care.
Yeah.
Right? They said, we got to focus. And then I find out, like, one of the Republican representatives gets like $15 million to fix a well in his township that like has like 6,000 residents or 4,000 residents. I'm like, dude.
And this is a prime example of what having somebody like Ibrahim in that building. I'm serious, man. This is a prime example. Like people can't really comprehend what you do exactly and what it is. So it's like this is a prime example of how having somebody that represents anything like the community, all that, and it's great. It's great to have that, man.
I'm excited for the opportunity. I'm honored that my colleagues picked me. It was a tough race. I had a lot of good opponents, but we put in the work and we established those relationships. And now we're excited to get to work. So this Wednesday at noon, constitutionally, is the opening day of the Michigan legislature. So
does it feel surreal sometimes? Like,
so I walked into my office. So you get a Capitol office when you become the majority floor leader. And I have the biggest office in the Capitol, like my actual. So I walked in and it's almost like nuts. So I usually, when I come into a new office in government, I usually find my Quran and I place it on a bookshelf, and then I figure out where I'm going to pray in my office. So I have a small rug. It's literally like this big. I just needed, to lay my head down. And I put it next to the American flag that's in my office, but it's a much bigger office. So when I walked in, when was it? I think I walked in January 3rd, and it was the first time I had been there, and I was like, holy smokes, to be the first Muslim. Like, I know the weight that it comes with. No Muslim in the country has been in this post anywhere, right?
100%.
And to be the first Arab, like, it was just a moment for me that's like, man, like, my dad came here, almost 50 years ago, or in 1980, I don't even know how, maybe about 50 years ago to this country. And to think that one of his kids, my mom never got a chance to go to school, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about like high school, middle school, like third grade education. For her to be able to see her son, I'm bringing her to the office on Wednesday for the first time. So I get sworn in again, and it's the whole thing. So I'm inviting them over, and it's going to be pretty incredible to sort of see them walk in. Like, it's a beautiful office. I mean, it's like super high ceilings. It's a historical building, right? The Michigan State Capitol's beautiful. So it's like to be able to walk in and just take that moment in with my parents on Wednesday. I'm super excited about that.
100%. You're probably the youngest too.
I learned this, actually. I didn't know I was the youngest. I'll be 29 in a couple weeks, and I was told by one of the clerks of the House that you're actually the youngest floor leader that we can recall. And I was like, really? And I looked back at the age, like the guy before me, Representative Frederick, he's a great guy, Republican. He was almost 40, and the guy before him was like in his late 30s. So I kept going back. I'm like, all right, let me find somebody that was in their 20s, and there hadn't been someone. So that was like a cool, but you know, all these firsts, young and all that, they don't matter as much as can you do the job well and can you do it with integrity. And you know, my hope, although I'm the first, I want to be the best. Like I want people to remember, like, damn, like it was Rep. Aiyash, majority leader.
Some stuff up.
Yeah, right. Like it was Majority Floor Leader Aiyash that set the standard for what it means to serve on the House and whatnot. And you know, I'm excited. My staff is really happy. You know, when they got into the office, like, wow, we get to have this. I was like, yeah, it's yours.
Yeah.
So your staff comes with you.
Yeah. So like, I have an entire. So I have the West Wing. So there's only 2 offices on the West Wing of the Capitol. So my office, and then the Senate President Pro Tem was right across the hall from me. So I think the office is like 3 rooms, right? And then there's like it's pretty. I mean, maybe I'll do like a Facebook Live tour one day.
Yeah.
Or you know what? Come by. You know,
we love that.
It's the people's house, right? Come by anytime. I always get excited. You know, I wish one of the things we're gonna try to change this year. You know, Hamtramck schools, they can't afford the field trips to go all the way up there because like the bus and paying the bus driver and all that. That's actually costs like a couple G's, right?
Yeah.
I'm excited to try to get like some classrooms just for them to come up. You know.
That would be an experience I'll never forget.
Yeah. I mean, it's. You guys are welcome to come literally anytime. I mean, we're there Monday through Thursday, just about.
I was gonna say, so do you travel from?
Yeah, I actually just came back from Lansing.
So you every day back and forth?
You know, on some nights when I try not to stay in Lansing, you know, it's too much of a bubble. I like to come home and remind myself sort of where I come from and where I represent.
You guys, look at how humble he is.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even.
No. But you know, on icy nights or something like that, I'll book a hotel room in Lansing and stay there. But you know, I drove back tonight and I got to drive back tomorrow morning. I got to come back home and then drive back Wednesday. And I think Wednesday night I'll probably stay just because I have like an 8 o'clock morning and it is brutal.
Yeah.
It's an hour and a half drive and
Yeah.
you get traffic and like I can't be late, right? Like if I'm not there, the house doesn't start.
Yeah.
So I need to be in Lansing to run the session. Otherwise, it's like, okay, who I have my assistants, but
Yeah, there's a couple things I want to say. First of all, that feeling that you're saying that your parents felt, I'm not gonna lie to you. I think a lot of people will tell you that, especially the ones that know you. You know, we share that very similar feeling as well, man. Like when those moments happen, it's a proud moment for a lot of people, man. So you know, you just know that you're making us all proud. And I know you say,
You're
you know, you don't.
everyone's brother. You're everyone's uncle.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that.
So, you know, you mentioned, you know, you don't care about the accolades, but you are the highest ranking Muslim in Michigan's legislative history, even at the young age of 28, mashallah. So, you know, I know you say you don't care, but when you hear that stuff, like what goes through your mind?
You know, it's an incredible honor, just to be able to know that there's a young Muslim. You know, I always bring the story up that when I first won my state house seat back in 2020, I went to Masjid Mu'adh to pray, and I saw a young kid with his dad. You know, the dad didn't recognize me, shook my hand, and said, "I'm so proud of you." And the son didn't know who I was for a second, and then the dad looks at him and says, "Do you remember him? Like, he's the guy that we voted for, and like we got his flyers in the mail." And once the kid realized that, like it was sort of gasped and then like started crying, and I was like, holy smokes. Like you don't realize the impact it can provide until you're in that moment. And then similar story, you know, this was during 2020. Someone had asked me, like a young kid, he said, "So does that mean you get to fight Trump?" and he was really happy that like you could stick it to Donald Trump. And it just shows you like you don't know the impact of the responsibility or the moment that you hold. So, you know, I try to make it my intentional effort to bring folks that are not in these spaces, right? We make sure to try to bring as many black and brown and immigrant and Muslim folks into these spaces to show them like this is your place too, right? You know, I'm proud that my chief of staff is a black man who I think his mom actually lives in our district or lives nearby, but it's it's incredible to see, like, this is also the first time, you talk about first, that the Michigan House or Senate doesn't have any white men running the show, like in any space. So like the speaker, the majority floor leader, the majority leader in the Senate, the majority floor leader, like none of them are white dudes, which is like we're not indicting anything. There's nothing wrong with white men, right? But it's like government has historically been run by older white men. And literally like the past session, right, the speaker of the House and the majority floor leader and the majority leader, majority floor, we're both, 40-plus-year-old white men. And it's like to see this shift that now we have a more reflective state leadership.
I was going to say that. It reflects the people.
Yeah. It's incredible to be able to experience that. And it's a high honor. And now we want to deliver, right? We know the responsibility. Hamtramck in Detroit, our schools need funding, our infrastructure needs support. People's houses still flood. So we got to make sure that we're giving communities money to finally fix some of those issues with our infrastructure, that schools get the funding that they need, that housing, we have some of the poorest housing stock in the Midwest. People need places to live, and they need affordable places to live. Criminal justice reform, right? Just last year, I think, over 1,000 police murders, right? That we have to try to figure out how can we build a more accountable public safety model. We're all union kids. I think your dad, he was a union man. My dad's a union guy, and we got to make sure that we're taking care of our workers, that they get their funding and whatnot. So, I have a cool bill coming up that will help small businesses that I think a lot of people in our communities are going to love. So stay tuned for that.
Looking forward to it. So, what is the biggest obstacle that you faced so far in your path to get into where you're at?
People don't realize how ugly some of these leadership races get. It's unfortunate, to be honest, but the smears and like the I gotta be PG, but like the crap talking that you sometimes have, it's like people who you like think are on your side. It's like, I thought we're one team and we're supposed to be united. It's unfortunate to see that. So that was tough, and it's like not putting that burden on your family, or like, you want to go complain to somebody like, oh, this person, like, they tried to like threaten, it was like, I'll give you an example. It was literally like an hour before the vote, and one of these lobbyist groups like threatened a member and said, if you guys vote for Aiyash, we're never going to give the Democrats money. And, this person's a very, very loyal friend, so they called me and said, hey, heads up, we got a certain group like threatening to withhold money from us as a way to like scare us to not voting for you. So it's like that type of pressure. And then I think just, it's a very expensive endeavor. You have to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, to be honest. And it's not money that goes for your reelection. It's money that helps take the majority. And people say, well, why do I give money to help the Democrats win? What have they done for me? And now we can actually show them, right? We're going to, inshallah, deliver results for our communities. I'll tell you this much, Hamtramck will get more money, I can guarantee this, more money this year from the state for support for infrastructure and things of that nature than at any point this century. Like, I'll make sure that happens. That's a top priority. Detroit is going to get some serious dollars to fix the roads and make sure that our seniors have their roofs, are not caving in. Yeah. I'm going to fight like hell to make sure that we get a lot of money and resources for our communities.
I feel like the city of Hamtramck needs to give this guy like a parade or something, man. Like, I'm serious, man. Like
honorary medal.
Yeah, like
key to the city.
Yeah, there you go.
Key to the city.
That's what needs to happen. But you know what? I'm gonna give a shout out quickly to our second sponsor, which is the Balkan House restaurant located in Hamtramck. They also have a Ferndale location. The Balkan House is famous for their doner kebab sandwich. But did you know that the Balkan House now serves breakfast? Did you also know that 100% of their food is halal? So you also know that you can book one of their 2 food trucks. So if you're looking for a nice place to eat with friendly service and great prices, look no further than the Balkan House restaurant. Their food truck phone number is 313-262-6234. Like I said, they have a Hamtramck and Ferndale location. Shout out to Juma, shout out to Hassan, shout out to everybody over there at the Balkan House. Great people, man.
And shout out to that spicy sauce. I don't know what it's called.
The orange one?
Oh my God, it's so good, man.
It is.
Like, I took one of my colleagues out once. She came to knock doors during my re-election, and I said, let's go to Balkan House. So we went out there and we got donors, right? I
Yeah.
think everybody gets one of those, and we got the sauce, and she went crazy for the sauce. She's like, oh my God, this is freaking amazing. My mouth is watering thinking about it.
Yeah, well,
it's so good.
yeah.
So shout out to the Balkan House.
For real.
Sure.
And they're great people, man. And it's, like last year, we quickly wanted to just say, like, they did a fundraiser for Yemen. 100% proceeds went to Yemen.
Wow.
And then she just mentioned it to me recently. She's like, by the way, we need to do that again. So it's like, mashallah, man, they're great people, man. I can't say enough about how good they are, and just being with them is great people, man. So being a Yemeni American Muslim, how does that affect the way you think, the way you move, and how it has affected you from the point, where you're at right now?
It absolutely colors my experience, right? I always tell people I'm a state rep who comes from Yemeni American background, but, I represent a very diverse district. I think I have like the third blackest district in the state, which I think is important to highlight because, what I hope to do, and sort of as a long-term strategy in my role, is sort of bridge the divide and the disconnection between the African American community and the immigrant community in Hamtramck and the surrounding Detroit areas, because there's a deep tension, right? I'd be lying if I didn't say there was anti-black racism in our communities, and we have to work to fight against that. So, for me, I think it's important to highlight. I know the struggle of an immigrant. You talk about the stories of people who go to City Hall or go to a court and get mistreated because they have a thick accent or don't understand the system, or belittled, right? And I definitely recognize that, and I know that the sort of the legacy and the rich heritage that comes from a place like Yemen, most of us generally come from big families. I think there's like 10 of you guys. Right? Mashallah. I'm one of 8, so we have a big family, and so all those things absolutely color how I view the world and how I legislate and how I'm gonna fight for issues. I don't I have some privileges, but I also have a lot of disadvantages that I grew up with. I think growing up in Hamtramck, working class family, alhamdulillah, we always had, we never had to feel like we were struggling, but you go to Cotton. I went to Michigan State, like your own, but it's like
go green,
go white. We had a great game last night.
We did.
So, or yesterday afternoon. Sorry, U of M, to the Wolverines. I actually have a bill that I want to change. I'll tell you, I have a bill to change. Michigan's official nickname is a Wolverine state.
Oh, really?
Stupid, right?
I think I do remember that.
It's garbage.
Yeah.
I have a bill.
Is it an animal?
Well, yeah. Well, so here's the thing. Like, we haven't seen a Wolverine in the actual state of Michigan.
Is that our state animal?
04.
Is that?
I think, but like our official nickname is.
Yeah.
So I was like, wait a minute. Like, we got to change this. So I have a bill to change it to the Wolverine. Sorry, from the Wolverine state to the Great Lakes state.
Oh, that's a great one.
Right. It makes sense.
All
So. I had a lot of Michigan fans that were like, "Oh no, we're not." Granted, it's not the most important thing that we're gonna work on,
but still work on that. Though,
yeah, I'm gonna do what I can, man.
All right, Ziad Hadi just said, let's get the hard-hitting question. Will Ibrahim participate in the Hamtramck versus Dearborn charity basketball game this year? That's
gosh.
the question.
So here's the thing. I played basketball over break. I was with a couple of friends. We went hiking, and then we found a basketball court when we went to it for our pit stop. So we played basketball, and I'm not a basketball. I love basketball. I love sports journalism. So like I'll read about trades and athletes and teams and whatnot, and basketball is fun to watch. The problem is every time I play, someone accuses me of traveling. So I asked they said you like dribble and then you take 20 steps and you keep dribbling. I was like, what the hell am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
So if I figure out the dribbling part, I'm pretty good on defense, right? I definitely body people up in the sport. I'm not that fast, but I have a heart of gold, man. Like I'll fight like hell, but the problem is I get called for traveling. So I don't know what the hell to do.
Yeah.
So
we could go over that maybe before the game.
Flag football.
Well, we'll see because we're gonna try to get him and the mayor Dearborn Hamoud.
Yeah,
to do that.
Abdullah. So look, I tell you what though, we're starting a basketball league up in the house, like
Nice.
a bunch of state reps. We're gonna probably get up and like play it Thursday mornings, and hopefully I'll get my traveling issues fixed.
Down.
Because I don't know, like how do you keep dribbling the ball and like what if I don't know. It's confusing, man.
Yeah.
I watched LeBron do it. I'm like, damn, he's traveling.
That's funny. That's funny. All right. So, you know what? I did want to ask you this, and I know I kind of, because I wanted to hear so people could know, like, all this work. Like, what do you do to, like, kind of, like, make sure that,
De-stress.
yeah, you know, decompress and get away from what it is. Like, what makes you happy? What makes you feel like you're at home?
So, like, I'm serious hiker. Like, people say, oh, like, what do you, like, you go on a trip? Like, no, like, I go out and I'll go to a mountain and, like, I'll spend, like, 2-3 days and I'll go backpacking. So every time I tell people I do that all alone, they say, seriously? Like, you're not afraid? I was like,
Like
I
with,
just,
with a tent and everything.
yeah, like, I'll set it up, you know.
All alone?
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, that's tough, man.
Here's the thing. I can't find many friends that want to do it. So, like,
Yeah.
this over break, I decided to go to Arizona and California to do some hiking. And I convinced a couple of friends to come with me. And one of them came in Nike shoes, shorts. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Like, we're about to go on a hike. Like, we're going to walk through, like, cactus. And we're going to walk through, like, sharp trees. Like, and, like, I like to take tough hikes. Like, I don't take the ones that are, like, paved. And I really like isolated hikes, like, away from many people. It just gives me time to think. And the reason why I hike a lot is because when you're hiking, one, you have to stay focused on, like, your surrounding because you can slip and then it gets, you know, sometimes it's dangerous. Like, I climbed up a mountain and there's a lot of ice, so, like, you really had to focus. And what I discover in doing that is when you're hiking all alone, or you can do a couple people, but away from a lot of folks and your phone doesn't have signal, your mind wanders. And what I find with myself is the thing my mind wanders to is the thing that is most stressful or the most impactful thing affecting me in that moment, right? So I'll go on a hike and, like, I go by myself. Like, I'll go with people, but, like, if I go by myself, I'll listen to, like, the crunching of the leaves or, like, you know, the rushing of the water, and I'll hike. I'm focused on like getting actually across and not getting injured or anything like that. And then whatever my mind wanders, I usually bring a notebook and I kind of write it out. It's like, okay, what was I thinking about in that moment? And then it gives me a chance, like, to reset and say, okay, khalas, like, this is bothering you, or this is an important issue on your mind, or this is something that you really need to, like, work on, or this is a relationship you got to fix, or so on and so forth. So, you know, I love doing that. Like, if I could hike every weekend, I would, but it's not that easy. Like, in the summer, it's great. You know, like, I went up to Lake Superior. So, like, if this is, like, the UP, I was, like, right here, and I had, like, a 25-mile hike by myself. And the only reason why I turned around was because my phone died. And I told you, like, I take routes that are not really traditional or, like, paved. Yeah, so I had to come back, right? Now, shout out to Apple. Like, you know, the new Apple Watch Ultra now has, like, a feature where you can, like, trace your steps back without needing service. Wow. Yeah, so, like, it's super. Like, I was hiking in Hawaii, and I went on a hike. It was, like, through a waterfall. It took, like, 7 hours. It was a long hike, and mosquitoes tore me up. But I got lost, and because I walked back, I went up and went down, and then there was a left and a right, and I was like, crap, I don't remember which way I went. Yeah. And it was like getting close to Maghrib. The worst thing to do is, like, get stuck on a hike and the sun is setting, and then you're like, you don't have any time. So thankfully I pulled out this watch, and it actually works. And it was the first time I tried the feature out. So I really enjoyed it. So that's, like, my first number one hobby. Yeah. And then I love, like I said, I read a lot of sports journalism or a book. So
that's awesome. We got a couple quick hiking questions. I do want to respect theirs, and then also respect the time.
Yeah.
Also, so just want to throw it out there. Please don't hike alone. Please don't hike alone. Have you not watched the movie 127 Hours?
I don't know what that is.
Okay.
So everybody calls me crazy for hiking. Well, look, I'm not, like, nuts. I'm not gonna go, like, amongst bears and wolves and hike alone. But, you know, sometimes it's just nice to spend, like, 2 days all by yourself. And I'm not, like, super distant. Like, I'm not in the middle of a desert, but, you know, it's, like, nice to, I'll, like, see 4 or 5 people along the way. Yeah. Because it's only us that usually go out and do that. So
for sure. Then what's the most excruciating, mind-numbing duty you have to deal with as a state? Well, as now being the floor leader.
Floor leader. That's a tough one. You know, I love doing constituent work. You know, when you have direct impact on people, someone calls you and asks for help. You know, I have a situation where we had a woman that was living in a very unsafe housing situation. Her landlord was also her ex, who was abusive, and it was very, very unfortunate. But we were able to find her safe housing and a stable job through some of the programs that were available in the county and in Detroit. So that was like one of the most, like, the biggest highlights of the years. Like, we didn't give up. This took like four months. I mean, it was frustrating. I always say government is like honey, but it's not as sweet. It's very slow moving. But we were able to be successful there. I think the most frustrating thing sometimes is just making sure that the members that you need to get past stuff show up. That's going to be like a lot of work. If someone is late, I got to, pick up the phone. Hey, are you on your way to the floor? Like, was everything going in? We got members that live all the way up in Marquette and all the way down by Ben Harbor. So if some folks have a long travel, like a Marquette drive is like 7-hour drive. Like, it's nuts.
So if they're not there for the vote, like, their vote doesn't count? Or
No, you can't proxy vote. So, like, and because we have a 1-vote majority, right? We have 56 votes, 56 Democrats, 54 Republicans. And you need 56 votes to pass anything.
Yeah.
So you guys gotta show up.
So yeah, like, let's say it's like a party line vote, like all Republicans vote no, and even if they support something, they'll probably vote no,
Just because it's a
Yeah.
just because they know it'll like cause us, some heartburn.
Yeah.
So that's probably going to be the most stressful thing. I wouldn't say it's mind numbing. It's probably going to be the stressful things. Like, all right, if someone gets stuck in a snowstorm from the UP, or if someone gets, like, we have a lot of new parents in the Michigan house, right?
Yeah.
Folks just had babies. Like, last time I love something happens to their kid. Completely understandable, right? They want to go to the hospital or go to an urgent clinic, or if there's a situation at school, those are all serious things. You can't blame somebody for putting their family first, but it's like just being able to adapt quickly. And I think that was one of the reasons why my colleagues supported me. They appreciated my ability to sort of quick think and adapt strategy, and I've studied the house rules, and read them. There are a lot of boring, like, language. It's like, archaic language. No one ever talks the way you actually read them rules. But
Do you find loopholes sometimes?
so when I was in minority, I did, and that was like how I demonstrated my ability to show leadership. Like, the Republican speaker at the time, she would gavel us down. So basically, if you do something that's not in the rules, she like bang the gavel and stop you from talking. So a bunch of people got gaveled down. I would say I'm proud of the fact that I always like walked to the edge of the cliff, and then she never got to gavel me down.
There you go.
So, like, if you're within the boundaries of the rules, you can still find ways to make them bend. So that was a lot of fun.
Definitely. And a quick joke. The worst that can happen from hiking alone in Michigan is running into a wolverine. It'll hurt you bad, but in Michigan, wolverines tend to choke at the end. So.
TCU. I was in Arizona. I was flying back home when Michigan fans were coming in, and it's like you can't hate on TCU. I mean, Max Duggan
that was a good
plays
game.
with his heart, man. I watched the Big 12 championship game, and I was like, my God, like, you can't not love this team. So I'm rooting for them all the way now.
Yeah.
Like, I hope they beat Kirby Smart. The game's in a half hour, right?
Yeah, it should be starting soon. So that's why I want to make sure we get you going as well. So I do want to say this. So like I mentioned earlier, you are inspiring so many future leaders. People now actually believe that they can make a difference. You hear about it, you hear all the slogans, but at the end of the day, and I know it probably could be more, but I do think it's getting better when you hear people talk that they do want to get into being an elected official role and, make a difference, literally make a difference in their communities. And you are definitely one of the faces if you were to think of people that are doing it. And heck, you're the highest ranking Muslim now in the state of Michigan. So at the end of the day, what are your thoughts when, when you're inspiring the younger generation, you see that you're starting a change, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank those that came before me in terms of Muslims in state office. Abdullah Hamoud, Rashida Tlaib. I'm only the third Muslim. Now we have Representative Farhat, Alabas Farhat out of Dearborn. And, we're blessed to have more folks sort of see deeper engagement in government from the Muslim community. Look, it's never plan for a public office. It's like, it's one of those things that are just tough, that because you never know when a politician's going to leave or when it's something that, I had no idea I was running for this seat. You know, it was the untimely, unfortunate passing of Isaac Robinson that opened up an opportunity to run. But it was tough, you know. Like, he was one of the first people I had met in politics in 2007, and
So why did he have to leave in order for you to kind of?
yeah, you know, it's like, you know, Isaac was a fighter. I mean, you couldn't take that away from him. I mean, this man stood up to the most corruption and was so fearless about it. Like, he didn't give a damn what the hell was going to happen to him. Like, he was so adamant on fighting for what was right. So, you know, it was an unfortunate moment, but you know, there was a need for someone to step up and serve. And alhamdulillah, the fact that we were able to do so and be successful was a start. And one of the things that I hope to remind folks is, you just do it with the intention of serving people. And I know that sounds like cliche, right? But it's not an easy endeavor, because in an era where like everything is transient and transactional, it's like you always want to be the famous person, or you always want to be known or recognized for your work. I say my first stint of public service, when I was a kid, I think I said this the last time we had spoken, I would literally just go give out dates and coffee at the masjid. And then I started I learned what recycling was. And I really hated the fact that our school district in Ham High was throwing away so much paper. So and plastic. So I said, can we like build a recycling program? And we did. And then when I got to Michigan State, I just did a little bit of work with the Obama campaign, just getting people out to vote. And then I found a void in the Muslim community after Trump, that we needed a space in state government. Michigan State student government. And I helped develop a refugee mentoring program, right? Not because it was the accolades, but when you do things out of a labor of love and like a care, I'm driven by my faith. Like I never hide that. My faith drives me to do work and to enjoin in the good and forbid the evil and fight back against that. That's, I think, one of the first things. But also recognize that you can't detach from politics. Like, it affects every single aspect of your life. You can't just say, oh, well, I don't do politics, but as they say, politics does you, whether you want to or not. Like,
it affects everything.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, right? You're like, your trash doesn't get picked up.
There's a reason.
Politics, right? Like, your water rate is high. Politics,
Your kids don't have a good education.
Politics, right? Potholes, politics. Like, all of it is politics.
Yeah.
And it's the mechanism in which we exchange and build power. So it's like, you got to recognize that you don't have to know what the majority floor leader does or how the house operates or whatnot. But it's important to know that when something is off or something bothers you, yes, complain, but see if you can offer up a solution. And that's like, even right now, in fact, we just did a retreat with my colleagues, and a lot of them were saying, like, some of them had said, like, we find these things problematic. And one of my colleagues said, you know what? Yes, there are a lot of problems, but can you offer up a solution when you bring up a problem? And I think that's the one thing, because it's easy to complain on TikTok and Twitter and Instagram and Facebook Live, but can you also offer up a solution?
They say there's two people in the world. There's problem starters and problem solvers, and obviously the problem solvers are our leaders. They're the people that are finding those solutions. And believe it or not, we try to do this fire away questions. We are down to the last question, which is this new thing that my sister Abed brought up, which is called the motivational minutes. Motivate Me 313 minutes. Of course, we love what we have here, but Abed was like, hey, why don't we record from the phone? Because obviously that's going to be even better quality straight from right here. So basically it's for advice. But before I do that, Ibrahim, I do want to say, make sure you guys follow us on our socials, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. It's all under Oz Media now. Subscribe to our pages. Follow us. You can listen to this show on Apple and Spotify podcasts as well. Obviously, follow us there. So make sure you follow us on our socials. Shout out to our sponsors, Hanley International Academy. You got the Qahwa House, you got the Balkan House, and BC Adhesives. All 4 of our sponsors of this show as well. We appreciate them. So, Ibrahim, the motivational minute, all right? Can you give advice to someone who wants to be a leader in their community but are having trouble, maybe taking those necessary steps to be a leader? What advice would you give to someone that wants to take that next step?
Okay, this one's tough. I'll use the Detroit Lions as a reference, right? Sometimes you'll start 1-6, but you may end up with a winning record if you persist. And, to lean into the football analogy, my dad always tells me, and I think he's talking about soccer, but he says, you're going to be like a football. And I said, well, what do you mean by that, Pops? He says, sometimes you get thrown in the mud, you're going to get kicked around, you're going to get penalties, you're going to get booed at, but focus on the goal. And when you understand the goal, I would say that's your why. When things get difficult and you feel like things may not be moving in the direction that you want, recognizing your why will sort of keep, and that always is important for me, and that's what sort of keeps me going. Sometimes you look at things and you don't understand why it's happening, and with a little bit of faith in him and understanding your why, you will eventually get to the goal.
That is awesome. I appreciate that. Ibrahim, shout out to you, man, and all the things that you do.
Shout out to Oz Media. I like this new setup. I think I want to come back just to be able to sit in a studio this cool.
Hey, man, we got to get you back maybe with somebody else, maybe even with Abdullah Hamoud. Maybe we get you guys before the game.
Oh, yeah.
Just to talk smack.
A trash talk. Oh, absolutely. Hamtramck won last time, right?
They did?
Oh, yeah.
Hamtramck won, man. I was actually, I'm actually proud, man, surprised. But here we go. Salam, hello, beautiful people. I like to hear this. It's most definitely tough. Focus on the goal. Why? Recognize the why. Allah never forgets. Shout out to Allah never forgets for chiming in. Believe it or not, we're cutting down to the end of the show. Abby, did you have any final comments?
I did want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that a great leader inspires everyone around them, but also the impact stays even when in their absence. And I feel like you have.
Oh, boy. Inshallah, I don't know. Time. I really appreciate that sentiment, but it's so always stressful because people have expectations, and we'll make mistakes, and sometimes the other piece of advice, if I can give something, we live in an era where call out is sort of the name of the game, calling someone out or canceling them and whatnot. It's important to try to call people in. That husn al-dhan, right? Giving people benefit of the doubt. It's a prophetic tradition, and if it's something that I always tell that one time there was a guy was really upset with me. He's like, "Oh, you didn't do this." I was like, "Dude, just call me." You never know what something. I was late. I missed an event, and I felt really bad. But the guy said, "Oh, where have you been?" and whatnot, and I was like, "Dude, I was in a car accident." Alhamdulillah, I mean, I was okay, but it's when you get hit on the freeway, you pull over, there's a bunch of traffic, you gotta wait for the cops to come. The report, it takes 45 minutes to an hour sometimes. So I was like, dude, I missed the event, and the last thing I thought of was to text and call you to say, hey, I'm not gonna make it.
Yeah.
And once he's like, oh my god, once you told me that, I completely decompressed. It's
maybe.
Isn't it, as a Muslim, you're supposed to give 40 excuses?
Yeah.
Before you
I actually told a colleague that today. She's Jewish actually, and I told her, in our tradition, we got to give someone 40 excuses before we accuse them of anything. And I said, the idea behind that is it's so hard to come up with 40 excuses that you just don't make accusations.
Yeah.
So, and the impulse is to do that.
It is. That's the world that we live in now.
Yeah. So, speaking of that, my staff is probably angry why I haven't responded to their text.
We're going to end the show. I just want to say this, though. When you went to the Lions, I thought kneecaps being buying off was about to be. I thought that's where we were going with that. But shout out to
what was his name? Jamal
Williams.
Don't let these tears fool you.
Yeah. Still got the dog.
Yeah.
Shout out to Abraham Aiyash.
I understand.
Yes. I've been just laughing. Back here. Yeah, just laughing. But hope you guys enjoyed it, seriously. And we appreciate Ibrahim for coming on. Inshallah, we'll get you on again.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was season 2, episode 17 of Motivate Me 313 podcast. We hope you enjoy. Inshallah, we'll be back again next week. Same time, Monday, 6 o'clock. We hope that you enjoyed it. And